Mother's Day is celebrated just about everywhere in the world, although on different dates. Now, in America, it's the second Sunday of May, or in Minnesota, you can calculate it in terms of the fishing opener. Actually, every now and then, and 2011 is one of those rare years when Mother's Day and the fishing opener are not on the same day. But how about some other countries, like Norway, where Mother's Day is the second Sunday of February, when the sun never rises, actually, on that date. And in England, it moves around because it's on the second Sunday of Lent. In Sweden, it is the last Sunday of May. In Russia, the last Sunday of November. In Panama, Mother's Day is on December 8th, and Indonesia, Mother's Day is on the 22nd of December. But whatever the date, moms are important everywhere. So if you Google the word mother, you will be directed to 761 million websites that you can go and visit. And just for the curious, if you Google father, a mere 424 million websites, about half or a little more. And if you Google Mother's Day, you get 62,400,000 listings. One website has calculated how much work a mom does at home and what is the dollar value of that work, and it comes to $61,436. I know, you want to write it down. Hold on just a second. It's $61,436. You may want to use that number later. And that doesn't include any work or earnings that are outside of the home and employment. In doing a little bit of research, I tried to find out how many Mother's Day cards are used each year, and couldn't find that, but I'm sure it's a lot because it's big business. And on those Mother's Day cards, there are accolades written by professional poets to describe mothers. But one of the most famous is not on a modern Mother's Day card. It is 3,000 years old, in the last chapter of the Old Testament book of Proverbs. And it says, "A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still dark. She provides food for her family and portions for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand, she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the reward she has earned, and let her works bring her praise at the city gates." This list has been read to millions of women over 3,000 years, and has generated uncounted feelings of guilt and misery and inadequacy and not measuring up. And it's read, and a lot of women say, that is way, way over my pay grade, no matter what my pay grade may be. She is seemingly so perfect, so ideal. But as you may guess, she has had her critics, because no matter how much good someone does, there is always someone who has the gift of criticism. And the gift of criticism has been generously used for this woman of Proverbs 31. The critics say that there is nothing here about her personal relationship with her husband. So apparently she was a grouch that was difficult to get along with. And there is nothing about her intellectual or emotional qualities. Conclusion of the critics: low IQ, low EQ. And her religious practices are not mentioned. So apparently she skipped going to the temple, and you know what that means. So you listen to the critics of this woman of Proverbs 31, and it's an obvious conclusion. She's a loser. She's just a loser. It kind of reminds me of that old story about a man with an amazing hunting dog. And he continually bragged about his dog to his friends, and to one friend in particular, saying this dog could do astounding tricks and things that no other dog could do. His friend was a total skeptic and just denied everything that the dog was claimed to be able to perform. So the dog's owner, one time in frustration and needing to prove his point, took his friend and the dog duck hunting. And they were out on a lake where the owner of the dog lifted his gun and shot a duck that dropped dead 200 yards out in the lake. At which point, the dog went out to get the duck running on top of the water. All the way out, never went in the water, got the duck, brought it back with a soft mouth, and dropped it at the feet of the two men. And the critics said, "That dog can't swim." So there are always critics who just love to find something missing. Now, if you are one of them, if you are a cynic and a critic, I would ask you to cut the lady of Proverbs 31 some slack and listen to her virtues. She is a person of exemplary character. She is worth more than rubies. Her husband knows her better than anyone else, and it is out of that knowledge of her that he has complete confidence in her. Every day, she brings good to her husband and to others. She is the type of person who blesses rather than curses. She helps rather than hurts. And you know that you can always trust her. She is a woman of hard work. She gets up early in the morning, and she has the flame burning late at night. She works long hours. She feeds her family interesting menus, and not just the things that are locally available. She actually buys food that has been imported from distant lands to bring varied ingredients into the menu. She obviously is in an affluent household because she has servant girls. And yet it does not mean that she delegates all responsibilities to them. To the contrary, she is hands-on with her home and with her family. She thinks ahead. She plans for the winter and it's cold long before it comes to make sure that her family will be well clothed and warm. She provides good bedding for them to sleep on. She's good with money. She's smart as a businesswoman, and she makes money and she saves it, but she doesn't just save it, she invests it. And she's entrepreneurial. So with the money that she has saved, she starts new enterprises, including a vineyard. And she's generous. She cares for the poor. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. In other words, she works hard and she has the benefits of hard work and entrepreneurship, but she is the kind of person who takes a delight in giving it to those who are poor and needy. There are two verses that introduce the description of her that often are omitted in the reading of her description. It is in the lead up in verses 8 and 9 that the Old Testament says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of the destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy." There are over 2,000 references to the poor in the Bible, and one of the practical evidences of a righteous and virtuous anybody, including this woman, is attitude and action toward the poor. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. And she speaks with wisdom. When she speaks, listen carefully. If you're at a family gathering or a party or out in the neighborhood and there are lots of conversations going on, and now she speaks, you want to excuse yourself for a moment from the conversation that you are in. You want to listen up. You want to take note. You want to remember what she has to say, because her words are carefully chosen, because she is smart and good, because she's not cruel or unkind, and she thinks before she speaks. Now, she may have her critics, and she does have her critics, but I am her admirer. And she may seem like an idealized myth, but actually, I can tell you of many godly Christian women that have a checklist, and they fit this description amazingly well. But it's actually not these lofty words that I invite you to remember on Mother's Day. The words to remember and the words to memorize are the words of encouragement in this description in Proverbs 31, 28, and 29. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Actually, those aren't words about this woman at all. They are words about and for her children and her husband. This is not a description of what she said or what she did. It is a description of what others say about her. So these are not God's words of encouragement to us. They are our words of encouragement to her. Even the very best of women need blessing and praise. According to an article in Family Circle magazine, 86% of mothers in America say that they don't get enough respect. My guess is that this unnamed woman of Proverbs 31 took far greater delight in the blessing that came from her children and the praise that came from her husband than she did from any jewelry that she wore, any financial success that she had, any prestige that she had in the community, any servant girls that were in her house, or any good return on investment. That if she did not receive the blessing of her children, if she did not receive the praise of her husband, none of this other stuff much mattered. Because if you set it up on a balance scale, by comparison, the blessing of her children and the praise of her husband was worth more than all of the rest of these things combined. And knowing what we know about her, I think it's safe to say that even if she did not receive the blessing and praise, that she would behave the way she behaved. That this is who she was, and this is what she did. She worked hard, she was generous to the poor, she spoke wisely. She did all this because that's just the kind of person that this lady is. But then to have the blessing of her children, then to have the praise of her husband, that must have meant to her everything. You know, it's a good thing whenever you receive praise and blessing from anybody, but sometimes we get it from those who don't fully know us. So you work for a company and you're there roughly 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 hours in the work week, and you do a really good job. And your supervisor, or maybe a poll of the office staff, says that you are to be the employee of the month. And that's a good thing. You get a better parking space than otherwise you would get for 1 month, 30 days, kind of with the expectation that you'll come in on Saturdays and Sundays and actually park there and do some extra work. But these aren't people that really know you. They don't know what you're like when you're sick or under duress or when there is heartbreak at home. Or if you're really good with finances and your bank balance grows, there are computer programs that will flag you. And you will get a contact from your bank that you have risen to another category, and therefore there are additional services available to you, that you are special, that you have a category that is above where you've been, and that's nice. But the banker doesn't really know you as a person, doesn't really know whether that money was earned or stolen, doesn't really understand everything that you are. But when words of blessing come from children, when words of praise come from a husband, these are those who really know you, and they have the far greater weight. So, here's my Mother's Day recommendation, and that is that the blessing and praise of Mother's Day be extended far beyond the second Sunday of May, that you get some extra Mother's Day cards. I assure you can get a great discount tomorrow, and you can buy probably a lifetime supply for less than you would have to pay yesterday. And what about sending one of those Mother's Day cards in? Don't do it in June. Wait till July or August so it isn't perceived as late but early for next year. And maybe in September. How about writing how great she is and sending it to everyone that's on your contact list for email? And give a description that is kind of like the description in Proverbs 31. And then blind copy it to her so she knows what you are saying about her to others. And then perhaps in October, buy for her a dozen roses on an unexpected date. Again, it will save you money. They are cheaper in October than they are for Mother's Day weekend. And 10 times in the next 10 months, make a deliberate effort to tell her that she has a job well done. Bless her. Praise her for everything that you can think of. Look for the opportunity to say, you're really a great mom. You really are. Be an encouragement. Make sure that she is counted in the 14% of those who do get full respect. And this is advice from the Bible that is especially aimed at adult children. Proverbs 31 says, her children arise and call her blessed. The Hebrew word that is used here doesn't mean getting up out of a chair. It means growing up. It's when children reach maturity that they give this kind of blessing. Now, that's not to say that the I love you from a child or the little picture that goes up on the refrigerator is not heartwarming and greatly valued. But there is something that is different and something that is special when it comes from an adult who has a choice to make and comes from a perspective of lifelong watching who she is and what she does. So as an adult, when her children arise and call her blessed, make sure that that is what you do, to give that kind of blessing that comes out of a lifetime of knowing her. And it's not just from children, it's also from her husband. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Okay, I have a confession to make. I have been married to Charlene most of my life, and I have never bought for her or ever given to her a Mother's Day card. And early in our marriage, I explained to her why, and the reason is she's not my mother. And I thought that was a good thing to clear up early in our marriage. And so I've never actually done that. But I have told her 10,000 times and more the praise that I have for her. So it's not so much about a Mother's Day card, it is about the praise that this woman's husband gives to her. And interestingly, it is not primarily praise for motherhood, but for who she is as a person and for what she does. So these are words that come from any husband to a wife, whether there are children or not children. And he speaks directly to the issue that probably most women wonder about, and that is, how do I compare? Do I measure up? What do you think of me when you think of everyone else? She wants to know what her husband thinks. And her husband says, many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. I've always had a little bit of trouble with these plaques and T-shirts that say, #1 mom, because that makes my mother #2 at best. And that just doesn't seem right, that we should have sort of rank order here. And have you noticed, when's the last time you saw a T-shirt that said #1 wife? Do they not make those? There's a whole new industry that probably ought to be out there. But you know that the husband of Proverbs 31 is saying this relationally and not statistically. He's saying, of all the women I know, as far as I am concerned, you are the very best. You surpass them all. What wonderful words for a husband to say to his wife. So, I have a practical question for us. Do you think that her husband and children bless and praise her because of who she is and what she does? Or do you think she is who she is and does what she does because of the way that they bless and praise her? And it is a question that needs no answer because the two go together. Who she is and what she does triggers blessing and praise from her family. But it is also true that the blessing and praise that comes from her family helps to shape and make her into who she is and what she does. All right, so you read this description, and maybe you wonder what I wonder. Well, what does she look like? And there's no explanation. So I just kind of assume that she's beautiful, but there's not a word here about whether she's tall or short, or the shade of her skin, or the color of her eyes, or the length of her hair. There is no description. In fact, kind of to the contrary, the book of Proverbs finishes with words that every Christian woman needs to know. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. So that's it. At the very core of who she is and what she does, as the basis for everything in this marvelous description, is godliness. That her relationship with God is what she's all about, and most to be praised. And then the last line of this biblical Mother's Day card says, "Give her the reward she has earned, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate." So you put it together, and here is the Bible's advice. Be a godly woman and bless and praise her for who she is. We thank you, our Father, for those whom you have shaped to be the mothers, the wives, the women that you have called them to be, and for the inestimable impact that they have and continue to have in our lives. On them we pray your richest blessing, and on all of us, may we be the agents of your blessing and praise. In Jesus' name.